Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for Friday, February 16th. Our current round of rain and mostly snow by the time we get to later on today will be tapering off this evening, but there's just a brief break before we get more rain and snow coming in starting again on Sunday. Snow levels where they're not already down at the valley floors will continue to drop today. We do have a cold front dropping over the divide into our area, bringing at least a brief shot of cold air for tonight and tomorrow. There will be some gusty winds with some blowing and drifting snow, and we've got a little bit of an interesting scenario setting up for the Snake Plain for this morning and this afternoon that could impact conditions, especially travel for a few hours over that part of eastern Idaho. Satellite shows plenty of moisture streaming in from the west, and this trend will continue again through the rest of the day. We start to see a break this evening back to the west. You can kind of see that break shaping up, but plenty of moisture streaming in here for this morning and this afternoon at least. Our biggest impacts will be over the eastern and southeastern highlands with snow, especially amid and higher elevations elsewhere. Some minimal impacts with light rain or snow, and like I said, interesting scenario. We'll talk about how that may shape up here for mainly late morning through the afternoon across most of the Snake Plain. Not talking about the Magic Valley necessarily with this one. Otherwise, break tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We've got rounds of rain and snow moving through again across the area, keeping our wet and active pattern going across our part of the world. So, how things look if you were looking at radar throughout the day here on our little bit forecast depiction of what radar would look like. Here we go through this morning. You can see up north, and we've already seen at least the initial shot of colder air trying to come over the divide. We won't really see the cold air impacts until we clear out tonight, and just a little bit of a cool down for tomorrow for some folks. We go into late morning this afternoon. Here's where we're starting to see this boundary set up. It's not necessarily a convergence band, but it is kind of where the cold front, this colder air push, is coming in. And by late morning, early afternoon, it's basically setting up around Craters and Arco back through around Blackfoot to Pocatello. And it may sit here for a couple of hours. Even if it's progressing on through, there is a window of where we're going to potentially see some heavier snow, even if it's for an hour or two across the area. But you'll notice the trend as we go in later in this afternoon, as the colder air continues to push over the divide, it starts shifting that band and weakening it as we head towards the Magic Valley, even parts of the Central Mountains and down to the South Hills and Albion Mountains. And by midnight, that mostly is pretty much gone. Maybe a couple of showers here and there across the area, but for the most part, that's how things are going to progress throughout the day in that regard. So here we go with the forecast this morning. Plenty of snow, especially over the Tetons, the big holes, higher elevations of the eastern and southeastern highlands. You'll notice with the boundary, that colder air spilling over the divide, we start to lose some of the heavier snowfall up around Island Park. But you'll notice the upper part of the plain, we have a band of 1 to 2 inches of snow. That's in some enhancement along the front. Not necessarily saying that whole band will produce 1 to 2 inches of snow, but that potential is there. And with it being early this morning, more than likely seeing some impacts of snow on some of the roadways at times, especially where we get a little bit heavier enhancement across the area. Also, with this band as we go through the day, we're not necessarily thinking we're going to have a slam dunk snow squall event along the front, but certainly some gusty winds, certainly some heavier snowfall, reduced visibility, and would not be shocked to see a lightning strike or two with that as we go through the day. And you'll notice those winds do turn northerly across the area as the front drops south, but along and south of the front, winds gusting around 25 to 35 miles an hour, some localized gusts 35 to 40. And you'll see spilling over the divide, some stronger winds coming down across out of Montana into portions of Clark County. Some of those gusts especially coming down there right along I-15 around 30 to 40 miles an hour out of the north. Otherwise, winds will be out of the west and southwest ahead of this boundary that comes through. As we go into this afternoon, we continue with this band of snow around an inch, maybe an inch or two for the Pocatello area right along the Blackfoot to American Falls corridor. This is where things are going to get a little tricky. It should be a little bit warmer this afternoon ahead of that front. This is likely going to at least start out as rain or rain-snow mix. And with enhancement along the front, we'll see this switching over to a wet snow. And don't be shocked if we see anywhere from half an inch to 2 inches in some areas, especially right along the interstate corridor, the bench areas, seeing some very wet snow falling, making kind of a tricky drive late this morning and this afternoon in those areas. But you'll notice the heavier snow overall is shifting south, along and south of that boundary. Those winds also starting to weaken, still 25 to 35 out of the west ahead of it. 20 to 30 in spots as we get the northerly wind push behind the boundary. That's for this afternoon. So certainly we're really watching what's going to happen at least this morning and through the afternoon with that band, that little frontal band coming across the Snake Plain. Just if you're dependent on traveling or your need to pay attention to how this is going to work out for you today, certainly stay tuned as we go through the day to see how this actually pans out, because I have a feeling this is what we'll call a fluid situation, pardon the pun, that we may end up seeing a mix of rain and snow, all wet snow. It's going to be very touch and go with this little band coming through those areas today. Going into this evening, you'll see that it's already pushing, like I said, down into the Magic Valley, the South Hills, back down into northern Utah. Snow quickly will taper off, some light snow amounts. Winds will be letting up. Still some gusty winds draining out across the divide up around Du Bois and Spencer, coming out of those mountainous areas around 30 to 40 miles an hour in a few spots. That's through this evening. Temperature-wise for today, it's going to not move much, especially up in the mountains and up across the upper end of the Snake Plain. Those temperatures are going to move much. We may not see much movement anywhere across the area, maybe within 1 to 3 degrees of where we're going to start out at sunrise this morning, before temperatures kind of back down a little bit, especially as when that enhanced precipitation moves through the area. Now, for tomorrow, because of that cold air, it's going to be a chilly start, especially where it clears off. We lose the wind, and we have fresh snow cover. Many areas sitting in the single digits above to around 10 below zero, especially over the central mountains up and across the eastern highlands. The farther south you go, it should be in the teens near 20 degrees. And admittedly, that might be a little bit warm. We'll just have to see how things go. But it's also going to be a little more breezy in these areas, which kind of helps keep temperatures warm in the air. The atmosphere mixed out a little bit. For tomorrow afternoon, we'll be cooler across the board, around 2 to 5 degrees, except maybe down across the Magic Valley, where we're going to stay in the low to mid 40s, very comparative to where we should be this afternoon. Otherwise, like I said, tomorrow will be a dry day. Sunday, we do push temperatures back up a few degrees, a few more 40s returning to the lower elevations. It'll be a warmer start simply because we have clouds and precipitation moving in late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And those amounts aren't too heavy. Most areas seeing some light snow amounts, but maybe a little heavier snowfall over portions of the Sawtooth. We could see 4 to 6 inches. Also portions of the Big Holes and the Tetons. Also up along the border with Yellowstone and even down in the Bear River Range. But otherwise, this one's going to be a quick one. It's going to be a decent shot of moisture, but it's going to be fairly quick across the area for Saturday night into Sunday. Monday and Tuesday, we continue to warm up. We do have more rain and snow in the forecast for Monday and Tuesday, especially later Monday into Tuesday here across central and eastern Idaho. So basically, once again, we've got this last main round of precipitation to deal with today. This will be seeing those snow levels drop throughout the day, especially when we get that frontal band to move through. There will be some blowing and drifting snow, and we're going to be definitely watching over the next few hours how that frontal boundary and potential of a heavier burst of snow with that band could impact conditions across the Snake Plain later this morning into the afternoon hours. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and stay safe out there, everyone.